Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. We spend a lot of time in this country, myself as a pollster, looking at maps that are red and blue. But when I think about it, I think the real divide in this country today runs deeper, and it's just not left and right, red and blue. It's the divide between the herd versus the invisible. So for 25 plus years, I've been a pollster at the Institute of Politics at Harvard, listening primarily to young Americans, but not just how they vote, but how they live. Not just what they think, but the weights that every day they carry in their backpacks or on their shoulders. Because in a democracy, listening is a muscle. I think it's atrophied too much. And in too many places, it's gone unused for too long. And when we don't listen, that's when trust breaks and elections are lost. Not from disagreement, but often from too much silence. So just last week, we did what I think too few of people, at least in my business, do in this moment. We listened. So I'm going to share some examples of an exciting new application of AI. So over the course of a day and a half, end of last week, teammates and I conducted over 100 in-depth, one-on-one interviews through a virtual version of myself, okay? With residents in Boston, where I am, in New York City, Los Angeles, and here in Tampa. They weren't polls, they weren't surveys, just people talking about what life really means in this moment, right now, and the kinds of things they think about at 2 a.m. when they wake up in the middle of the night. Just some high-level takeaways. And again, this is a couple dozen or so interviews across these four cities. You know, Boston, of course, everyone in America, as we've heard, is concerned about housing, considerable economic stress. Of course, we're all feeling in real time. Boston, we quickly could see the additional stress that bike lanes and congestion and just the disruption of the day-to-day activities like going to the grocery store. We also heard from a woman named Mary who talked about Boston seeming to forget her. She cares about immigrants, she wants to support them, but she's asking, what about me? In LA, it's a different vibe, especially last week. This is a city, to me, when I listened to these interviews, felt fractured. Everyone was angry, but seemingly for different reasons and for different things. When we had an in-depth conversation with a man named Xavier, he talked about it feels like no one has his back. He really just needs to rely on his immediate family to deal with the stress currently. In New York, obviously there's an election happening as we speak. The noise, both the literal noise in the city and the emotional noise, is driving people to do some dangerous things, I think. We talked to a young woman who grew up in the city. Her name is Makira, who talks about, even at age 21, how worn down she is. And the only way that she can relieve her stress is by going home to smoke a little bit, she talked about. And the number of cities that I travel to, we just completed a project of 30 focus groups with young men across the country. We're hearing that self-medication more and more to deal with the stress and the anxiety. Often it comes with the divisions in our communities. In Tampa, it's a different story, and the stresses are different. They're based upon the economy. We hear through those interviews that residents here are kind of grinding every single day, hoping to access an American dream that they feel like they may not be invited to. And they're craving an opportunity to be a part of moving the city forward, to be part of a city that listens and listens with care, they said. But listen, that is data. Data is important, but what is really important, I think, are the people in this story. This is an AI interview that a better version of myself conducted with a man named Keith from the Bronx.
That sounds nice. Having some time to relax is always good. In a word or two, how would you describe what it's like to live in New York City right now?
Hectic. It's funny you mention this. I was just telling somebody, the main problem in New York, it's always been for me, because I've always lived here, it's prices. I mean, you guys don't realize, all over the country, what you guys pay for, just say we triple. It could be soda, it can be clothing, it can be cars, it can be insurance. It's like it's triple in New York. And that's just wear on your income, you know?
It sounds like the cost of living is really a significant issue.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a certain age. When I was young, you take a young lady out. I mean, nowadays you go out, the movie theater, you gotta get food, dinner, you be going to a play or wherever you're going. I mean, you literally gotta take about $300-400 with you just to have a good night on the town.
So people like Keith and others I talked a little bit about, they're not the fringe voices, right? These are the folks at the emotional center of your cities. They're still connected. They want to stay. They want to believe. They just need someone to let them know that we hear them, to prove that we're listening, okay? And this is how I do it. So that was, you heard a version, a friend of mine said that was a persona that my wife married 30-something years ago, right? Kind, empathetic, thoughtful, patient, okay? But these are the kinds of questions that we ask, okay? Most polls, and this is, I think, to me, the difference between asking polling questions and listening. Most polls, and they should ask, do you approve or disapprove of your performance as mayors, okay? That's important to ask. I want to know what makes you feel proud to be from Boston or New York or from Tampa, okay? Most polls ask your job performance on a variety of issues, or what are the top most important issues facing the city, okay? Look at question 6 here. Thinking about your day-to-day life, would you say the city makes things easier or adds stress? If adds stress, how do you deal with it, okay? Those are the questions that the AI version of me asked. It's an open-ended interview, and it moves in whichever direction Keith or the other respondents want to take it. Again, it's about listening and not just modeling and forecasting, okay? The challenge in my space as a pollster has been this kind of listening has been really expensive. I mean, $20,000 for a focus group we conduct is expensive, and you need to obviously do more than one, obviously, okay? And we didn't have the opportunity before this moment in AI to scale conversations like this, okay? I'm excited to be part of a new venture with my friend Stephen Smith, who is here, and we've created this platform where it allows folks in City Hall and hopefully kind of throughout your administrations and your communities to engage with people like this in real time without having to fly the pollster in or to conduct expensive focus groups, which are still incredibly important, okay? But this kind of tool, AI today, allows us, okay, to have these deeper conversations with dozens, hundreds, thousands of people at once. As I said, on a Thursday afternoon, I conducted more than 100 of these. And it's built on something. It's built on 25 years of my work. All of my work virtually has been integrated into this model so it understands what works. It's based upon the principle that we all know that most people don't really vote just on policy. They vote on whether people feel understood, okay? And anyone on your team, as I said, can conduct a survey here, can ask it anything, can tap into a database of people from around the country, develop messaging, and test that messaging. Here's just a couple examples. And I think like the magic happens, okay, when you can ask it to speak either in my voice as a pollster, okay, or in the voice of one of your constituents, or of older voters, or of younger voters, okay? You can compare across neighborhoods, across generations, or even you can compare across cities. So here's an example of a report comparing Los Angeles to New York City, okay? The chaos and the disruption in Los Angeles is fundamentally different than what we heard in New York City at the time. There's a sense of exhaustion there, but people still were felt like they were holding on. There were quotes there and a very detailed report with the emotional drivers, what's driving those things, and the key differences. The stressor in LA is anger and distrust, while New York, there was more exhaustion and a quiet disconnect, okay? And I've been testing different tools like this, applications for a year, and one of the most powerful things I find isn't just what people are saying, it's what it reveals.
I feel like, whatever the issue is on a per citizen basis, one thing that they can do is just follow up in a more direct type of manner. So like, let's say if each region was like assigned like a politician whose job is to make sure that they're completely aware of all the issues, and all they really have to do is just, send an email or two every couple of days, making sure that everything's good. And I feel like that would not take that much, resources, and it would be able to create a direct connection with the community in Tampa.
People want to help. They want to help repair the trust, and tools like this can help us understand where to begin. This is something that I like a lot, especially focused on younger people. You can ask it to develop a strategy, brainstorm some ideas. Here I asked it to generate a 30-second script for the next mayor of New York City to engage younger people in civic life. It created a 30-second PSA. To every young New Yorker, I see you. I hear the frustration, the fear, the feeling that the city isn't fighting for you. But that ends now. I hear you. I tested some of those ads last summer and the fall, and the ones generated from the insights from research like this tested #1 consistently against other creative opportunities. When we take a step back, and I look at the 100+ interviews, not a large number of interviews, but when I compare them across the cities, there's another divide. The generational divide is obvious as well. And obviously this is important, especially we heard from the earlier panel today talking about young people and the stress of housing, both for younger and older generations. And that divide is obvious. But what I think we get wrong too often, conventional wisdom gets wrong, is that the divide isn't just about age. It's about fundamentally different relationships would change itself, okay? Younger people, Gen Zers, millennials, they're desperate to be part of your process to help shape what comes next. They want the opportunity to be empowered, to change things, and to have a voice in their future. Older people, like myself, not my AI version, myself, we're protective of what we've earned, okay? We seek stability, recognition, and a respect for what we came before. Both sides, especially older folks, don't feel like the other side is listening. Okay, tools like this, in my view, can help bridge some of those divides. Okay, there is an opportunity to connect younger people with older people between what's next and what's been earned. Okay, we've heard a lot of frustration, but there's also just a tremendous amount of pride from the residents, from the voters in your communities. Okay, Charles from LA. When AI asked, when do you feel most proud to be from LA? He said, times like right now, under the stress and under the chaos, when he felt his community in Boyle Heights came together, okay? The diversity of New York City is something that Marlene has deep pride in. One of my favorite interviews, to be honest, is with Yolanda from Tampa. She goes, in the future, I asked her what she hopes for in the future of Tampa. She goes, I hope for more peace and less stress. And she goes, I love this place. And she invited my AI self to join her at some point. So I love Yolanda. So listen, to close, this isn't, I don't think, about giving you better answers. It's about being better listeners. Okay? And the uncomfortable truth is that, again, people don't vote on policy. They vote on whether they feel you understand. To me, that was a lesson I pulled out of 2024. Elections are won and lost that way, okay? Based upon whether you truly believe what the other person feels like, okay? To be a young man in their 20s who may never afford a home, and may never have an opportunity to provide for their family, to understand that. Or to understand someone in their 50s or 60s who doesn't recognize themselves in the neighborhood where they've been for 30 years. Okay? Trust isn't spoken, I don't think. It's earned. It's earned one conversation at a time, and it starts and it ends with listening. Thank you.